You know that exact moment when you finally decide to stop. Stop texting first, stop keeping conversations alive, stop being the one who always shows up. There's this strange feeling that washes over you. Part relief, part fear. You wonder if you just made the biggest mistake of your life. But here's what you're missing while you're sitting there questioning yourself. Something's happening on her end that you can't see. Something psychological. Something powerful. The second you remove your constant presence, you don't just disappear from her life. You shift position in her mind. That shift changes absolutely everything about how she experiences you from that moment forward. When you were always there, always available, always responding, you occupied a specific space in her world. You were the predictable one. The safe option. The guy she knew would always be there. Predictability, while it sounds good in theory, is the silent killer of attraction. When something is always there, when it never changes, when it requires zero effort to access, the human brain does something automatic. It stops paying attention. It takes it for granted. It files it away as handled and moves on to things that require actual thought. You became background noise in her life. Not because you did anything wrong. Not because you weren't good enough. Simply because you were too consistent, too available, too present. The moment that consistency breaks, something in her brain fires differently. It's not emotional at first. It's purely mental. A pattern recognition system that suddenly notices a disruption. Something that was always there isn't anymore. The mind immediately flags it. Wait, what changed? That single thought is the beginning of everything. When you were texting her constantly, she never had to think about you. You were just there. Now that you're not, her mind has to actively process your absence. Every time her brain processes your absence, you're occupying mental real estate you never had when you were present. This is the paradox most men never understand. Your presence made you invisible. Your absence makes you noticeable. She starts scanning back through recent interactions looking for clues. Did something happen she missed? Was there a shift in your energy? A change in your tone? Her mind keeps returning to these questions even when she's doing completely unrelated things. This isn't obsession. It's recognition. Her subconscious registering that a pattern has been broken. Patterns, once established, become expected. When they vanish without explanation, they leave a mark. You're no longer just some guy who texts her. You've become a question she can't quite answer. A puzzle her mind keeps trying to solve. The funny thing is, you created more intrigue by doing nothing than you ever did by doing everything. All those messages you sent trying to keep her interested. They made you forgettable. This silence. It makes you unforgettable. Because now she has to wonder. Now she has to think. Now she has to actually pay attention to someone who isn't demanding it. In the first few days after you stop reaching out, she's not panicking. She's not emotional yet. But something subtle is happening beneath the surface that's setting the stage for everything that comes next. Her mind keeps circling back to you. Not constantly. Not obsessively. But enough times throughout her day that it becomes noticeable to her. She'll be doing something completely unrelated, talking to someone else, scrolling through her phone, and suddenly, there you are in her thoughts again. Why hasn't he texted? Here's what makes this powerful. She's trying to logic it out. She's going back through your last conversations, analyzing them for clues. Did she say something wrong? Did something change in your tone? Was there a moment where things shifted? Even when she finds nothing obvious, the question doesn't go away. You've introduced something her brain hates. Uncertainty. When everything was clear, when your interest was obvious, when she knew exactly how you'd respond, there was nothing to figure out. Her brain could relax. Now there's a puzzle. The human mind is wired to solve puzzles. She keeps thinking about it. Keeps coming back to it. Keeps trying to understand what changed. Every single time she does this, she's investing mental energy into you without you doing anything at all. This is where most guys sabotage everything. They can't handle the silence. They feel the urge to explain, to reach out, to check in. The second they do, they hand her the answer she was searching for. They tell her nothing actually changed. That they're still the same predictable guy. That she can relax again. Just like that, the mental loop stops. The puzzle is solved. She goes back to not thinking about you. When you stay silent, when you let that uncertainty continue, something shifts from mental to emotional. Now it's not just why hasn't he texted. It's becoming why do I care that he hasn't texted? That's a completely different question. That's the moment she realizes this is affecting her more than it should. You've somehow moved from someone she casually interacted with to someone whose absence she actually notices. She might push back against this feeling. Tell herself it doesn't matter. That you'll probably text later anyway. That she's overthinking it. But that internal resistance. That's proof the shift is already happening. If she truly didn't care, she wouldn't need to convince herself she doesn't care. Her thoughts about you are no longer passive. They're active. They carry weight. She finds herself checking her phone more often. Wondering if you'll pop up. Part of her expects the old pattern to resume because that's what she's used to. But each day that passes without it, the expectation weakens. Reality sets in. Maybe you're not coming back the same way. Maybe something fundamental has shifted. That realization doesn't hit her all at once. It creeps in gradually. Quietly building in the background of her awareness. And with it comes something she didn't feel before. A slight discomfort. Not pain, but awareness. The kind that makes someone pay closer attention. There's a specific point where everything deepens. Where what started as simple curiosity transforms into something with actual emotional weight. It happens when she realizes you're not coming back the way you always did before. At first, part of her just assumed this was temporary. That you were busy. That you'd fall back into the old pattern eventually. But when days pass and that pattern doesn't restart, when your silence continues, a different feeling emerges. Not panic. Not desperation. But a quiet awareness that maybe this time is actually different. That awareness carries weight. Now she's not just noticing your absence. She's processing what it means. She's trying to understand what changed in you. What made you pull back? What's different now? This is where her mind starts filling in blanks. When there's no information, when there's no explanation, the brain creates its own story. That story is usually more intense than reality. She starts imagining scenarios. Maybe you met someone else. Maybe you lost interest. Maybe you're done with her completely. Maybe you saw something in her that turned you off. None of these thoughts might be true, but they feel real to her because her mind needs to make sense of the gap you created. Here's what makes this powerful. She's creating an entire narrative about you without you saying a single word. You've become more complex in her mind. More layered. More important. Someone who just stops, who doesn't explain, who doesn't seek validation or closure, that's someone who operates differently than most people she knows. Different is intriguing. She's becoming more aware of you in her daily life. She notices your absence in moments she wouldn't have thought about you before. When something funny happens, there's a split second where she almost texts you before remembering you're not doing that anymore. When she's scrolling through social media, she finds herself checking if you've posted anything. Not because she's obsessed, but because there's this low-level curiosity running in the background of her mind constantly. You've become a recurring thought. Recurring thoughts create familiarity. Familiarity creates a sense of connection even in absence. The dynamic quietly begins to flip. You're no longer the one wondering where you stand with her. She's wondering where she stands with you. You're no longer the one checking your phone hoping for her message. She's checking hers, wondering if you'll reach out. The entire framework has reversed, and it happened so naturally that neither of you can point to the exact moment it changed. She's moved from a position of control to a position of uncertainty. From knowing exactly where she stood to questioning everything. From having all the answers to searching for them. And searching means thinking. Thinking means investing. Investing means she's already in deeper than she planned to be. All because you stopped doing what everyone else keeps doing. Chasing. Eventually, the tension building inside her needs an outlet. The unanswered questions, the uncertainty, the quiet mental investment she's been making, it all reaches a point where she needs to do something about it. So she reaches out. Here's what's crucial to understand. How she reaches out tells you everything about what's happening inside her. She won't be direct. She won't say I missed you or why did you stop talking to me. That would expose too much. That would show her cards. That would give you information she's not ready to give. Instead, it'll be something casual. Something that gives her plausible deniability. A meme. A "this reminded me of you." A question about something trivial. Maybe just a reaction to your story. On the surface, it looks like nothing. Like she's just being friendly or maintaining a casual connection. Underneath, there's an entirely different motivation. She's testing the waters. She's trying to see if the version of you she knew still exists. She's checking if you'll respond the same way you always did. This is the moment that determines everything that comes next. Your response here doesn't just answer her message. It answers the question she's really asking. Are we back to normal, or has something actually changed? If you respond immediately, if you match her energy instantly, if you pour everything into that conversation like you used to, you give her the answer she was half expecting. Nothing changed. You were just busy. Everything's back to normal now. Just like that, the tension dissolves. The mystery evaporates. The mental investment she was making suddenly has no reason to continue. You just showed her that the old pattern is still available. That she still has the same access. That you're still the same predictable presence you were before. But if you don't do that, if you take your time responding, if your energy is different, if you're friendly but not eager, present but not chasing, engaged but not invested in the outcome, something lands differently in her mind. She realizes this isn't just you being busy. This isn't temporary. This is actually who you are now. That realization shifts her entire perception of you. You're not the guy who was always available anymore. You're someone who has boundaries. Someone who has a life beyond her. Someone who won't just fall back into old patterns because it's convenient. That version of you is infinitely more interesting than the version who was always there. She doesn't pull back. Instead, she leans in slightly more. Not desperately. Not obviously. But enough that you can feel the shift. Her responses come quicker. Her energy is more present. She's more engaged in maintaining the conversation. Now she's the one trying to hold the connection, not you. The power dynamic has shifted without a single word being said about it. She went from being pursued to being the pursuer. From having certainty to seeking it. From controlling the pace to following yours. And it all happened because you refused to be the same person she took for granted. There's a phase in this process that most men never reach because they break too early. They can't handle the uncertainty. They can't resist the urge to go back to old patterns. But if you make it through, if you genuinely maintain your new position, something profound happens. The entire power dynamic flips without either of you acknowledging it out loud. Before, she had certainty. She knew how you felt. She knew you'd be there. She knew your interest was solid. That gave her complete control over the pace and direction of everything between you. She could respond when she wanted. Engage when she felt like it. Pull back when it suited her. Because she knew you'd still be there when she came back. Now that certainty is gone. She doesn't know how much you care anymore. She doesn't know if you'll be there tomorrow. She doesn't know if this version of you will last or if you'll pull back even further. Without certainty, control weakens. Control requires predictability. You're not predictable anymore. Something subtle but powerful starts happening. She becomes more careful about how she interacts with you. More intentional with her responses. More aware of maintaining the connection. Not because you asked her to. Not because you demanded it. But because she feels like she might lose access if she doesn't. This feeling, this quiet awareness that you're not guaranteed, changes everything about how she experiences you. You're no longer someone pursuing her. You're someone she's trying to maintain connection with. You're no longer seeking validation from her. She's seeking confirmation from you. The entire framework has inverted. Here's what makes this so powerful. This reversal doesn't come from manipulation. It doesn't come from playing games. It comes from something much simpler and more authentic. You stopped prioritizing someone who wasn't prioritizing you. You stopped investing more than you were receiving. You stopped organizing your emotional world around someone who had you as an option. When you genuinely do that, not as a tactic, but as a real shift in how you operate, people feel it. They feel the difference between someone who needs them and someone who simply enjoys them but doesn't require them. That difference creates respect. Creates curiosity. Creates value. Needing someone is common. Everyone needs. Everyone wants. Everyone chases. But being complete without someone, being genuinely okay whether they're there or not, that's rare. Rare is what people notice. What they remember. What they come back to. She starts reading your messages differently now. Looking for signs of how invested you are. Trying to gauge where she stands. The tables have completely turned. She's doing what you used to do. Analyzing. Overthinking. Wondering. And you're in the position she used to occupy. Calm. Centered. Unbothered by outcomes. That shift didn't happen because you forced it. It happened because you genuinely stopped needing it to happen. What most people don't realize is that this process doesn't just affect the immediate situation. It creates a lasting change in how she sees you. Even if things eventually normalize, even if you start interacting regularly again, she never fully goes back to seeing you the way she did before. She's experienced something with you that she doesn't experience with most people. Uncertainty followed by genuine respect. You're not just the guy who showed interest anymore. You're the guy who showed interest and then stepped back. Who didn't need her validation. Who didn't chase when she pulled away. That creates a different category in her mind. You become someone who can't be taken for granted. Someone who has standards. Someone who won't accept less than mutual investment. Once you're in that category, you stay there. This shows up in subtle ways over time. She notices when other guys are too available, too eager, too desperate for her attention. In those moments, she compares them to you, often without even realizing it. She remembers how it felt when you weren't chasing. How different that was. How much more it made her think. You become a reference point for how attraction should feel. Not forced. Not one-sided. Not desperate. That reference point doesn't fade just because time passes. What people remember isn't always what you did. It's how you made them feel. You made her feel something most people don't. The presence of someone who knows their worth. This is why the effects of stepping back last longer than the effects of chasing ever could. Chasing creates temporary attention. Stepping back creates lasting perception. Chasing makes someone feel wanted. Stepping back makes someone feel like they might lose something valuable. Loss is a much stronger motivator than gain. She carries this experience with her into future interactions. Not just with you, but with everyone. You've fundamentally altered her understanding of what creates real attraction. She realizes now that the guys who chase the hardest often value themselves the least. The ones who can walk away are the ones worth keeping. This isn't something she learned intellectually. She learned it emotionally through direct experience. Those lessons stick deeper. They change behavior at a subconscious level. Even months later, your name carries different weight when it comes up. There's a story attached to you now. You're the one who didn't play by the usual rules. Who zigged when everyone else zagged. Who had the strength to step back when stepping forward seemed easier. That story becomes part of how she defines you. It colors every future interaction. It creates a foundation of respect that didn't exist when you were constantly available. And respect, once established, is remarkably difficult to lose. It becomes the baseline. The new normal. The standard by which she measures not just you, but everyone else who comes after. Let's strip away all the psychology, all the analysis, all the stages and get to the core truth. This was never actually about ignoring her. It was about not losing yourself in the process of wanting her. That's what most men do. They meet someone they're attracted to, and slowly, piece by piece, they hand over their power. Their time. Their attention. Their emotional stability. They make that person the center of their world while remaining an option in theirs. That imbalance kills attraction faster than anything else. Not because the other person is cruel or manipulative, but because it's basic human psychology. We don't value what we don't have to work for. We don't respect what's always available. We don't think about what never leaves our mind because it's always right there in front of us. When you step back, you're not playing a game. You're restoring balance. You're saying through your actions, I'm interested, but I'm not desperate. I enjoy you, but I don't need you. I'm here, but I'm also fine without you. That message, delivered through behavior rather than words, is what creates genuine attraction. It's honest. It's real. It's not a performance that'll eventually break down. You're not pretending to be busy. You actually have a life. You're not faking indifference. You genuinely don't need the validation. You're not strategically timing your responses. You're just responding when it naturally fits into your life. That authenticity is what people feel beneath all the surface interactions. They might not be able to articulate it, but they know the difference between someone who's playing a role and someone who's genuinely living their life. They're attracted to the latter. What she ultimately feels isn't about the specific tactics or timing. It's about experiencing someone who operates from a place of wholeness rather than need. Someone who adds to their life rather than trying to build their life around her. Someone who sees her as a beautiful addition rather than a missing piece. That shift, from seeing her as something you need to seeing her as something you'd enjoy, that's what changes everything. When you genuinely don't need something, you interact with it completely differently. There's no desperation. No fear of loss. No anxiety about outcomes. Just honest, clean, authentic interaction. That kind of interaction is magnetic because it's so rare. Most people are walking around desperate for validation, for attention, for someone to complete them. When they meet someone who doesn't have that desperation, who's already complete, it stands out immediately. Not because it's loud or dramatic, but because it feels fundamentally different. It feels like freedom instead of pressure. Like choice instead of need. Like something real instead of something performed. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button right now. We're breaking down real psychology every single video. No fluff, no games, just the truth about how attraction actually works. That's the real power. Not power over her, but power over yourself. Over your reactions. Over your need for external validation. When you have that kind of power, you don't need to chase anyone.